Here also on what's on the big picture tonight is WhatsApp's big decision, because remember, recently in the United States, Apple and the FBI went head to head with each other in a battle over the privacy of user data on mobile phones. Apple was resolute that it would not relent in providing the government access to customer data. WhatsApp has just followed suit, albeit on a much larger basis. WhatsApp has 1 billion users, remember. It has introduced end-to-end encryption for all its services today. This means that all user calls, texts, videos, images, and other files sent can only be viewed by the intended recipient. No one, not even WhatsApp itself, can access this data. At least that is according to WhatsApp. This pretty much guarantees, and this guarantee of user privacy is in fact a concern for the Indian government. In fact, not just Indian government, this is going to have ramifications around the world. Because so essentially, the government access to messages and calls of around 70 million Indian users has been blocked. For more on that, I'm now joined by Pavan Duggal, who's an advocate and who specializes in cyber law. Thank you so very much for joining us here on The Big Picture. We've seen how for the last several weeks, Apple and FBI have been locked in this fierce and high-profile battle over encryption. But quietly, WhatsApp has now announced an end-to-end encryption. How significant is this announcement as far as privacy issues are concerned, Pavan?
This is one of the most significant developments in technological history as far as the modern day world is concerned. By a single stroke, 1 billion plus users suddenly tend to get far more empowered. Why? Because this particular development ensures that the online privacy and data security of the users is being retained. The net effect of this announcement is that since these will be asymmetric crypto system and hash function technologies which will be used, there will be encryptions, and more significantly, nobody can actually hear or read or view anything on the way. So therefore, it's a great step forward.
The big question though, Pavan, now is how will Indian laws treat WhatsApp after this announcement? Because I believe DOT's license agreement for provision of internet service 2007, which I think you'd know a lot better than me, disallows companies in India from encryption that is higher than 40 bits. Therefore, does WhatsApp's 256-bit encryption in this case just make it illegal in India?
Well, currently Indian law is sleeping because the last time we had actually stipulated the encryption levels that were 40-bit in 1999. In 2016, this is long outdated. Majority of the people are actually breaching the law, and therefore there's a need for reviewing the law per se. Encryption today is an important tool for e-commerce and m-commerce, as also for ensuring security and privacy of individuals. But as of now, if you look at current positions, it can be said that the move of WhatsApp to make the end-to-end encryption would be not in consonance with the provisions of the law. Primarily also ambiguous is the situation because the government's draft encryption policy, incidentally, has still not yet come out. The last draft had said that it will be making it illegal for people if they do not store all messages sent or received on WhatsApp for a period of 90 days.
So you're saying in its current form, it is not in consonance with the Indian laws. But Pavan, also share with us, because this is a conversation we were having a short while ago, that you believe that this encryption only sort of encrypts the passage of existing data, and to that extent, the receiver's data, the person who's receiving the information can still be shared. Can you expand a little of what you were sharing with me earlier?
Well, you will have to quickly realize the reality behind the announcement. The good news is that on transmission, nobody can actually hear, read, or see what's being transmitted. But that's not all. At the end of the day, when at your device, you will be able to decrypt information, that information, after decryption, would still ultimately be made available to you using computer systems and networks of WhatsApp. Plus, the WhatsApp terms and conditions will categorically say everything on WhatsApp is public information. On top of it, it is saying that they will retain the information of the recipients of the said messages, as also the dates and times, and they will comply to all legal requests. So the impression that because it's end-to-end encryption, you suddenly have a blanket to be completely anonymous on WhatsApp and that there'll be no accountability is a wrong impression. WhatsApp will still have the intrinsic capability of giving this log information to law enforcement agencies. In addition, WhatsApp will also have the ability to give access on appropriate court orders to even decrypted information that could be made available on its computer resources and network.
Well, that's a very, very important clarification you're making there, Pavan. So essentially, at the end of the day, WhatsApp messages are still not entirely private. That's essentially what you're saying.
Well, WhatsApp is a very, very fundamentally different paradigm. You have to quickly realize that the terms and conditions of WhatsApp says that whatever you post on WhatsApp, audio, video, image or text, is all public information, and that you have no privacy on that. Now, that's a fundamental position of WhatsApp as a company. What it's only saying by means of this announcement is that I'm securing the communication channel by making end-to-end encryption. However, that still does not say that the information that ultimately will be transmitted will still be private. It will continue to be public information and will be governed by the WhatsApp terms and conditions.
That's indeed a very important point there, Pavan. But also comment a little bit about this larger debate that's panning out across many countries, especially with this heightened terrorist threat. How can governments balance between the needs of privacy on one hand and security on the other hand?
WhatsApp's announcement has suddenly taken the entire world by surprise. It's pleasantly surprised its users, but vis-a-vis governments and law enforcement agencies, I think their headaches and challenges have suddenly increased overnight. Why? Because it's well documented that WhatsApp is also being misused by a large number of people for cyber criminal, cyber terrorist and cyber radicalist activities and tendencies. In a scenario like this, I think we are likely to see a current period coming in where there will be pushbacks by the governments of the world, by the law enforcement agencies. They would want more and more access to information. And I think WhatsApp as a company has, by means of this announcement, stated that it's going to stand for online privacy and online security. Ultimately, you will have to come up with some mean golden balance. What will that be? When will that be achieved is only a question that time will be able to tell. But we would distinctly see far more now legal challenges and legal conflicts and proceedings happening in different jurisdictions vis-a-vis this, and the intrinsic ability of sovereign nations to insist on information as part of their sovereign rights to govern.
Thank you so very much, Pavan. We've got to leave it at that. Thank you for taking us through the nuances and the different elements of the WhatsApp announcement.